What's up, guys? Many of you know that Stephen King is my favorite writer. I'm currently reading my 50th book by him, which is titled Different Seasons, and I've read many Stephen King short stories. Today we're taking a look at my 10 favorite Stephen King short stories, starting with my least favorite and going through to my absolute favorite short story, and we'll be doing it in a spoiler-free manner. Starting it out with number 10, a story called Obits, which is found in the Bazaar of Bad Dreams, and it clocks in at 39 pages. A journalism student named Michael Anderson is hired on by a magazine publication to write joke obituaries. However, as time passes by, Anderson and his obituaries seem to have the power over life and death. Or is it just a coincidence? Life and death are serious themes, and I like this story because it's a literary one. It's about a writer and a publication and the power of authorship. I also like the spooky nature in this one and the fact that I couldn't quite see where it was going when I started it. Number 9, Uncle Otto's Truck from the Skeleton Crew collection. It clocks in at 14 pages. Talk about spooky. This one's about a truck that's an abnormal old truck. There's a murder in it as well. It's a horror short story. This one is about addiction, obsession, and death. This one is an unusual tale, and it's an easy and imaginative read. Number 8, The Cat from Hell from the Just After Sunset collection. This one clocks in at 14 pages. A man hires a hitman to kill his cat. There's an evil cat in this one, and although it's a horror story, I also thought that it was really humorous. It was funny. King is really good at blending horror and humor, and I'm a cat lover, so I particularly enjoyed this one. Number 7, Blockade Billy. This one is from the Bazaar of Bad Dreams collection, and it clocks in at 39 pages. This one covers one of Stephen King's favorite subjects, baseball. In this one, an old man tells a story about a minor league baseball player who's called up to the major leagues. A man named Blockade Billy, a guy who is an oddball. I like this one because of the surprise at the end, and because there's a character in it that every Stephen King lover will appreciate. And if you've read this story, you know just who I mean. Number 6, Blind Willie from the Hearts in Atlantis collection. It clocks in at 46 pages. Blind Willie is about a man named Willie who pretends to be blind in New York City's Manhattan, and he's a beggar, asks people for money, makes a fortune. And no, that's not a spoiler. It's quite clear what's going on in this one from the very first page. I thought it was humorous, I thought it was really interesting, and I love a story that takes place in New York City's Manhattan. Hey guys, we're moving on to the next story, but would you mind hitting the like button below? It really makes a difference. Thanks, guys. Number 5, The Ballad of the Flexible Bullet from Skeleton Crew. It clocks in at 43 pages. Now this is the craziest damn thing. It's very different. It's about a writer and his editor. The writer appears to be insane, but is the editor insane also? The writer writes these crazy stories, and they have an influence on the editor. This one is laugh out loud funny, and it's really full of madness. It's a great one, and if you haven't read Skeleton Crew yet, I actually suggest that you start with it, even though it's one of the last stories in the collection. Number 4, 1408. This one is found in Everything's Eventual. It's also found in Stephen King Goes to the Movies, and it clocks in at 49 pages. A writer who debunks supernatural claims decides to stay at a notoriously haunted hotel in hopes of writing a debunk article on it for his publication. 1408 is a very good ghost story. It's no wonder they made a movie on it. I think it's really entertaining, and it's about time I finally watched the movie so that I can compare it to the book. Number 3. Now we're getting into my absolute favorites here, guys. This one is called N from the Just After Sunset collection. It clocks in at 43 pages. Now this is unlike anything that I've ever read before. I actually considered making it number 1 on this list because it's so creative and haunting. After I finished it, I thought to myself, the author must be a genius. He really surprised me with this one. It's a nested narrative kind of story. I better not say anything more about it because I fear if I say anything about it, it will spoil the story. I enjoyed it so much that I actually think I'm about due for a reread on this one. Number 2, The Little Sisters of Eluria from Everything's Eventual. It's the longest story on my list at 65 pages. After I finished the Dark Tower series, some years later, I picked up the short story collection Everything's Eventual, and I was pleasantly surprised that there's a short story in here, Little Sisters, that is directly involved with the storyline in the Dark Tower series. It takes place before the first installment, The Gunslinger. We're back on the beam with Roland hunting for the Dark Tower in this one. I enjoyed it because it was fun being back in Midworld, and I wish King would write a whole collection, a whole massive book of short stories with stories that are just on the Dark Tower, the plot line therein. I would be the first to buy it. And finally, friends, my number 1 favorite short story from Stephen King, The Man in the Black Suit from Everything's Eventual. It clocks in at 25 pages. A little boy goes out on his own, fishing in the woods. His parents tell him not to go too far into the woods. Wouldn't you know it, he goes too far and has an encounter with the man in the black suit. Danger is directly involved with this one, and it lights a fire under the reader's rear end, fearing for the protagonist, and it's a very suspenseful story. It deservingly won the Bram Stoker Award, and I won't tell you who the man in the black suit is. You'll have to read it and find out for yourself, but I will tell you that The Man in the Black Suit is my favorite Stephen King short story. And there you have it, guys, my top 10 favorite Stephen King short stories. I have currently completed 5 short story collections by King, the ones that you see here, and I'm looking forward to reading every single short story that he's ever produced. In fact, the next book that I'm going into will be Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which by the look of it is probably King's longest book of short stories. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll be doing more Stephen King videos in the future, and please let me know in the comments below which Stephen King short story is your favorite. I'll see you next time.